can't. And it's a conversation that just isn't going right between you and the customer. So this is going to be a great topic. We've got a great book. We've got a great lightning round. I think it's going to be a good show.
Me too. All right. I'll hit the video and we will dive in.
We prospect with integrity, we will get customers who have integrity. Integrity is the foundation from which everything is built on.
You better understand value. But at the end of the day, sales is a relationship business. It is a people business. It is an emotional business.
This is Sales Logic.
Hey, it's great to be kicking off another year with you, Meridith. And man, it's amazing how strong Sales Logic continues to become. Hey, we got the new website out there, Sales Logic Podcast. Really should get people checking out there because we got all the books listed that we talked.
We got all the books listed. All the shows are updated. It's go out there and take a look at saleslogicpodcast.com. So before Mark dives into exactly what we're going to talk about today, I want to go over how the show works because we really want you, the audience, engaged with this show. Every week we kick off with a question from you. So you ever got anything on your mind, something you want us to cover? Just go to saleslogicpodcast.com. We cover a hot topic. We do a lightning round and we cover a book. Mark, I got to tell you, I'm super excited. I got an email from a woman this week who told me that she was going to quit sales. She was going to get out of sales. She was just done and burned out, but she listens to this podcast every week. It reinvigorated her. She's excited. So this is the show where we make sales more fun, easy, and effective. So what's on tap for this week, Mark?
Well, what's on tap? This is going to be a perfect conversation for her because it's all about the topic. How do we craft the right sales conversation? Think about this for a moment. How many times do deals go sideways? The book and the lightning round really pick up on that. But let's dive in right now to the question. The question comes from Sam in Boston. He says, I lead a team of sales professionals. We sell medical devices. We are getting so many turns at that, but just not closing the deal. I feel very good about the prospects, but wonder if something is off in the sales conversation. As I get ready to work one-on-one with my sales team, what should I be looking for? How do I help them craft a better sales conversation? Perfect topic.
Yeah, I love the way that you said Sam from Boston. I mean,
I used to live in Connecticut. Okay, I wasn't in Massachusetts, but I did live in Connecticut. So
yeah, exactly. Well, you did a great job with that. First of all, Sam, I want to tell you how intuitive of you. I mean, to me, you're a sales manager who's really paying attention because the very fact that they're getting the meetings tells me there's a good chance they've chosen the right prospect. They've identified need. They're putting the right value prop out of there because that's the biggest hurdle. And nobody knows that better than Mark Hunter, who's the specialist at prospect. But getting through the door is so critically important. But I do agree with you. I think something is off in the sales conversation. Now, there's a number of things that it could be. And the number one thing you need to do as a sales leader is go in and observe. But here's my guess. My guess is they're going in and selling in that first conversation rather than listening in the sales conversation. This is so subtle, Mark. This just happened to me last week. I was getting ready to buy a piece of software. And quite frankly, I was sold before I ever got people on the phone to do the demo or anything. They started the demo off right. They asked me what my need was and said the software will do what you need it to do. But then they told me every flipping thing the software would do. And I don't care. I don't. It was drinking from a fire hose. And quite frankly, I checked out and started to check my email because that conversation didn't feel customized at all.
Man, I'm biting my lips right here because this drives me nuts. And in fact, we need to do a couple episodes on how to do a good demo because you're right. People screw it up big time. Hey, here's something I'm going to challenge Sam. Sam, you know what you need to do is you need to ask your salespeople, what have you learned from your customers? What have they told you? But here's the secret. Here's the secret. After they tell you something they learned, you ask them, how did you learn that? What did you ask them after they then told you that? Because the idea then is that when we hear something from a customer, we have to go deeper. You got to keep going deeper, deeper, deeper. And Sam, I have a feeling what your people are doing, and what salespeople do all that. They hear something and then they move on. They never stick it. And you wonder why the customer checks out. You wonder why you began checking email, because it wasn't relevant to you.
Not at all. And, it's funny. I had somebody ask me the other day for sales scripts, and we could probably have a huge debate over over the sales script. I'm not a sales script person. I am a line of questioning person, though. And Sam, this is someplace I feel like you could go in and really make a difference with your salespeople. Now, a lot of salespeople believe just let the conversation unfold. And there's value in that. I mean, you need to be able to do that. At the same time, you need to think ahead of time about the questions you want to ask. And the reason for that is we all have our natural tendencies. You could put Mark and I in front of the same customer and we sell the same product, but there are parts of it that Mark is comfortable selling and parts of it that I am comfortable selling. And we will default to where we're comfortable. A good realm of questions reminds me to ask about things that I don't traditionally ask about, which may be of real value to the customer.
Boy, so much said right there is so key. It's interesting. I remember early on in sales, I would spend so much time building out the presentation. This is everything I want to say, everything I want to share. I look back and go, how stupid could I have been? Because it's not about what we present. It's the questions we ask. If we spend as much time or more developing the questions we want to ask, I think we'd find ourselves closing a lot more deals. And that's the challenge. And here's the key with asking questions. This is where we get off track in terms of the right sales conversation. You have to have the question you ask, but then whatever the answer is that they share with you, you've got to be able to come back and ask them another question. Get them to build on it, because that initial piece of information is like peeling an onion. You can peel layers off an onion and it just goes down the garbage disposal, because you're really getting down. I don't know what they call the meat of the onion, but there's only a little part of it that you actually want to use. That's the same thing in a conversation. I love the comments. I love the comments that we have got coming in here. It's amazing.
Yeah, I do want to, Ronald, you are absolutely right. Customize the conversation before closing the sale. People have to feel like it is about them. And I think it is so important for salespeople to realize in a conversation, it is not the product that you are selling. And it amazes me in today's marketplace that we're still selling a product. For what you're selling is, we can even say we're selling solutions, but I'm going to say you're selling those secondary. The very first thing you're selling is you and the trust that you create with that customer. Does this experience feel different than it feels to somebody else? And again, I'll go back to that software I was buying on Thursday. I felt like if this had not come highly recommended from two friends of mine who had done research and said, this is the one to buy, it would have gone into a pile of software that was like every other software I was looking at, because I told the guy exactly what I need and he glossed right over it to go into that whole, into his canned presentation. Larry, I want to call Larry out, our good friend, Larry Levine. You got to tune in this week. He's got an incredible series going, Selling from the Heart. I'm lucky enough to be on with him on Tuesday, but it is his 2023 challenge. And we'll put some Well, I'll put something up here in the notes here in a second. But he's right. You gain so much. Just go on a ride with your salespeople. Hear what they're saying. Jump on a call with them.
The biggest wake up call, I still remember it. The boss was Bob Stone, and it was Tualatin, Oregon. If we have any Oregon listeners, you know where Tualatin, Oregon is. And I remember he went out on some sales calls with me, experienced it firsthand. And the next day I was sitting in his office, and I'll swear I was going to get fired. But he gave me some of the best advice I had ever had. And that was the fact that I was not dialing in and truly understanding what the customer was looking for. I still remember that 48-hour period as if it just happened yesterday, even though it happened years ago. But you are spot on, Larry, in terms of we all as managers have to get out and work with our salespeople. You may be inside sales. So that means listening to them on the call. If it's outside, it's getting in the car, getting on the airplane, going with them on those calls. It is absolutely critical, because here's the whole thing. You go back to what Meridith said, and I love what you said. It's not the product, it's the solution, it's the outcome we are enabling the customer to achieve. That's what our conversation's focused on. The product is really irrelevant. It's the solution, it's the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Hugh, I love what you're saying there. People buy because of how they feel, especially, Mark, we really ought to do a show all about sales and how it relates to this fourth industrial revolution. That in today's, as we move into this next phase of what technology and AI are going to do, salespeople become so much more important, because this isn't technology or salespeople, it's the blending of the two. But at the same time, this next phase of where we're going with sales means that as a buyer, I can buy anything I want to without the salesperson. So you diving in and helping me understand where my need is, where my problem is, and then being able to critically think your way through your products and services to match what I need to achieve, that is where your market differentiator is. That is where your value is. And that is how you create a different experience. But you can't get there until you ask the right questions. And Jay up here is asking us a great question. He wants to know some of the questions that we ask in a sales conversation.
I'll start off. I love you. You share with me something, and I'm going to say, tell me more. Can you give me another example?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate? I love drilling down deep on what the customer shares with me.
Yeah, I want to know that, I usually start a sales conversation by saying, this is what I know and this is what I understand. I've done my research on your company. I want to use this conversation to dive, to dive a little bit deeper. And I always love to start, especially right at the beginning of the year. Tell me about 2022. I understand you had a good year. What made it a good year? What are you looking to continue into 2023? And as you look at the challenges of 2023, what are those and why?
It's so critical to get to where their challenges are at. But that age-old question, what's keeping you awake at night? Yeah. Oh, that's so lame. Please, the 80s are calling. They want that question back. You see, here's what it comes down to. In the book we featured last week by Don Barton, he really talks about how after the presentation's over, and it's a study we've all seen out of UCLA, the words we share are only remembered 6%, but the emotional state is what they remember. What is the emotional state that you remember? Go back to what Mira said. People can buy anything from anybody anytime. Why should they buy from you? We have to ask ourselves, are we putting them, and even if it's B2B, don't kid yourself. We can sit there and say, oh no, it's only a factual decision. And wrong. It is still emotionally driven. It's fact supported, but believe me, it is emotionally driven. And that means you've got to be engaging the customer in that conversation.
Yeah, I love this. John Register just sold a speech because of empathy. He just asked, what makes your company special? And then they tell you what makes it special. You go in with your product and say, how can we how can my product help enhance that? Or, what do they ultimately want? Like, what are they trying to achieve? What's really important here, though, is sometimes customers don't know. Jack Hubbard just joined us, and one of my favorite stories from banking, I mean, he was my guru when I was in banking, was I had a customer come in and ask me for a $250,000 loan for which they did not qualify. And they were asking for $250,000 because another bank had come in and offered them a line of credit for $250,000. And they just wanted to see if the bank that they had been working with would give them that. Well, they didn't qualify. But what I was able to get in there and understand was he really just needed $50,000. And then I was able to help him understand that by borrowing $250,000, he would put himself in financial peril. But you've got to be, his need wasn't what he was asking. His need was he needed to build those nurseries that you grow plants in. Why is that escaping me right now? Anyway, he needed to build that. And that was his need. It wasn't
a greenhouse. No,
thank you. It wasn't $250,000. So you're so valuable as a salesperson, but you have to help people get to the heart of what's going to make them successful. No pun intended, get to the heart, Larry Levine.
You know what? This is so key. And I'm going to go back to the book, The Challenger Sale. Brent Adamson and Matt Dixon came out about 10 years ago. But The Challenger Sale is all about probing deeper, being willing. And Sam, this whole question that you bring up, I'm gonna be bold and say that your salespeople are probably not willing to go deep enough. They're bouncing along on the surface because they want to keep sharing product features. And they're not really getting to benefits. And I hate using the term features and benefits, but sometimes we got to simplify it down, because you got to ask yourself, how am I going to help the customer? You raised that example of that person who came in looking for a $250,000 credit when all they needed was $50,000. If you had not probed deeper with them and asked them, but you had to do that because you were demonstrating empathy and you were creating trust, that enabled that person to open up. And that enabled then you to be able to say, hey, it's $50K. That's what they needed, and able to make that deal come to pass. I love that. I love that example.
Yeah, John Register is so right. We've got to lead with empathy. One of my favorite things to say to customers sometimes too. I mean, I had a client on yesterday. I closed a keynote and they said, we just want you to speak on leadership. And wow, what a big topic that is, right? I mean, if
that's
I
like
just
air. Hey, can you come in and speak on air? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, that is exactly what we did. We went deeper. I said, leadership is a really big topic. So if it's okay, I'm just going to ask a lot of questions because I really want to understand what your particular areas of need where I can really focus. So it's incredibly valuable for those people who are attending. The master Jack Hubbard has shared some of his great questions here. So Jay, write these down. Why are you doing this initiative? And if we are toasting the success we had together at the end of the year, what does success look like? I love this one too. How will you be measuring this success? So great stuff here.
See, and this is the key. The key is there are questions in every industry. One of the questions I love asking financial planners, they're dealing with people who are, trying to build that nest egg. And I go, hey, ask person, what does retirement look like to you? Describe what are the things you want to be engaged in? What is it you want to do? And you get them talking, that moves it to an emotional state. And again, this applies to B&D because again, it's still about an outcome, but you're getting them to describe it more. The more you close that speech on leadership, but then I'm sure you were able to dive down deeper and get to specific issues, specific pieces that they are dealing with. I had the same thing yesterday. I was talking with a gentleman in Singapore and he said, Mark, we've had you a couple times and boom, boom, boom. Here's what we got this deal and da-da-da-da. And I could have left it at that. Okay, I got dates, I got times, got all that. But let's probe deeper. Let's go deeper. Let's get the conversation going. And what does it do? It creates the relationship. Because at the end of the day, you have to have that customer realizing, I can't go on without having you as the person who's walking my side because of whatever the product or the service you're going to help provide me with.
Yeah, I love what John is saying here. He said this company shared that they, when he said, ask that simple question, what makes you special? They shared that they had been around for 100 years. It's their 100th anniversary. So imagine that John and I were both up for this keynote. He takes the time to ask the question, what makes you special? And he uncovers the fact that they're having this big celebration around their 100th anniversary. He has so much competitive advantage over me because now when he puts his proposal together, when he puts everything together, he's got the information he needs to deliver on another level than I could have delivered. So, the goal of a sales conversation, I think, isn't to sell, it's to gather the information you need to deliver the value so that you can close the sale. I mean, you should be 100% in learning mode. It's interesting, you're curious, and you're getting all this information that the moment that John goes up against me, I'm left in the dust because he understands that customer so much more intimately than I do.
That's the key thing. You take that challenge, whatever it is, and you've got to be able to probe deeper with them on that. You can't allow yourself to be bouncing along on the surface. Here's what you're doing, and it's a visual. You're almost creating an anchor. You're bouncing along the surface. You got to create an anchor that here's the outcome the customer's looking for, and you are probing deeper in that to really help understand that. I go back to a very example I had where we were looking to come in and help a company because they were having some challenges and so forth. But what it came down to was they had a couple major competitors into their marketplace, and they wanted me to come in and not only, work with the sales team, present at their sales kickoff meeting and all these various pieces. But the challenge was to help that company hold on to their people. Hold on to their people and hold on to their customers in the face of new competition. And it's interesting because I was up against several other people. I got the deal because we understood better how to solve that problem because we took the time to have the deep conversations. We got a great conversation. We've moved it up an hour earlier. Think what it would be, and we got more people than ever. This is outstanding. But hey, we got to keep moving along here.
Yeah, we do. Oh my gosh, we've been talking. A long time.
I know. We're like 20. Hey, the book. You recommended the book, so why don't you tell the audience about it?
Well, Mark, I don't have it up in front of me, so I forget. You're going to need to. What did I put in
the
there
book is
week?
Ask by Ryan Levesque.
Oh, yes. If you have not tried Ryan Levesque Ask, it is literally a book about surveys and quizzes and how to use those as lead generation. But what I love is the fact that it really goes so well with today's topic because, when you get into a sales conversation, you already know about yourself, your company, and your product. And if you talk the majority of the time, all you've done is share information that you already know. What Ryan Levesque positions the book Ask is that asking is how you grow. Asking is how you build. Asking is how you learn and get the information that you need to position yourself differently in the marketplace, to truly intimately understand the customer. I've read this book 3 times, so you think I would have remembered that I put it in there, but I did this a week ago. But it is really. I remember the first time I read it, and I just thought to myself, I've never heard anybody position the power of questioning and learning as strongly as Ryan Levesque has done.
I love it. That's going to be a must for everybody. And hey, jump out to the website, saleslogicpodcast.com, because we do have a listing there of all the books that we have talked about over the, I don't know how many episodes we've done. But anyway, we got to get into the lightning round. Time is fast. Lightning round. Are you ready? Got your hand on the buzzer?
I do.
Okay. Top 10 ways to coach your sales team.
Number 1, first of all, schedule it. Make it a priority over anything else that you do. Never cancel a coaching session, because when you do, you tell the person they're not important.
Coach from the real world. That means you're either on the phone listening to them or you're physically on site with them making sales calls.
Make them responsible for the coaching session. Coaching is about helping people discover the power and success within themselves. So let them know they're leading the session. They need to come in with a topic.
I'm going to build on that because the objective is to turn coaching into a 24/7 where they're doing that continuously. So ask them in between coaching sessions, what specifically will you be working on and how will you be measuring your success? When we get that together again, you can report back to me on that.
Yeah, shift your mindset and understand, as a sales leader, the most important thing you can do is to develop your people. There isn't anything more important. Not an executive meeting, not a sales call, not anything. As the sales leader, the highest and best use of your time is coaching your people. Schedule your week accordingly.
Coaching is about asking them questions and probing deep. Go back to what I talked about earlier in terms of you ask them a question. What did you learn from that customer? After you learned it, what was your next question? How did you go deeper? The idea being is that you want to get them into the habit of asking more questions with their customers, just as you're asking more questions in coaching.
Yeah. Make it, focus on homework between coaching sessions. I mean, leave every single coaching session with an action plan. What are they going to do, and what progress do you want them to make?
Be always engaged and optimistic. You never leave a coaching session with the person in the gutter. Motivate them so they can go out and achieve success. Why don't you share one more? I'll share one more and we'll close it down.
Yeah, a part of every coaching session should be where do they need support from you? Understanding what's working well, where's their obstacle, and if you could help them and support them, what do they need from you?
Success in coaching begins with you. You yourself as a sales leader, you might be coaching people, but you know what? You probably need to make sure that you're being coached. Is your boss coaching you? Coaching must be the part of the DNA of an organization. And hey, great episode today, great audience. Hey, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said earned a single dollar, hey, consider telling a friend, would you? Because it's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
And remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And we are off and rolling strong in 2023. Great episode, great audience. This is a kicker, hasn't it?
Yeah, this has been a great show. Now, remember, mark your calendars, 8 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back here next week with another episode of Sales Logic. Check out the podcast, saleslogicpodcast.com. Go ahead, Mark.
And subscribe to it, please, on Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Please. And leave that review there.
Yeah, and if you've got a question, reach out. We'll cover any topic you want us to cover. And we'll see you right back here next week. Have a great sales week. Close a lot of deals.